What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Speakeasy Brewer. Today is going to be a great day. We're going to be hanging out and doing a beer build for our New Year's celebration. Give me 1 second. I don't know why this screen is the way it is, but there we go. Fixed it. Anyways, today is a special day just because it's going to be the last stream of the year for me. And I know it's not super celebratory and kind of crazy, but all of this is building up to what we're going to be doing next week, which might as well start out the year strong by doing things. What's up, Alpha Dax and Rob with 2Bs? Welcome. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for being here today. I'm really excited about this beer. I've made a variation of this beer before. We're just going to start over from the beginning. All right, using the new what's up, dude? Using the new emojis. This is just a taste of what's coming. We've got some more emojis. Yoshi Kichi, welcome. Hey, man, y'all are here. This is really exciting. So today what we're going to do is we are going to build a beer, and we're going to talk about what to expect for next week in terms of our celebration. It's going to be a mix between a New Year's celebration, because I'm working on New Year's, so I can't do anything crazy like that, and it's going to be also our affiliate celebration. Should have happened weeks ago, but you know how life is. Sometimes things happen, and you can't do a whole lot about that. So anyways, here we are today with some amazing people on board, and it's great to have you all here. So thanks for coming and supporting. You guys are amazing. So hopefully you all are doing well. It's beautiful here. And yeah, I'm excited for next week's brew. A couple things. Well, so the pineapple beer, it's ready to go. So hopefully we'll have some people to come by and taste test it so you guys can see how it turned out. Same for the smoky ale. The smoky ale is actually done carbonating right now. Actually, I got to show you guys this because I thought this was kind of funny because you volunteers tribute? Of course you would. I would love to share that with you. So I got to show you. So one thing that you can do when it comes to carbonating beer in a keg, real quick before we get into the beer build thing, one thing that you could do to force carbonate a keg in a short amount of time is to increase the amount of CO2 pressure in the keg to like a higher amount. Normally you let it sit between like 10 and 12 maybe. Maybe more, it just kind of depends. There's a calculator that you can use. Oh, is it echoing again? Okay, here, let's try this. Stand by. I thought I fixed it, but obviously I didn't. How's it now? Is it better? And some gunner, by the way, welcome. It's good to see you. Okay, all right, well, I'm just going to not use this thing because obviously I can't figure it out. Okay, so what I was going to show you guys is the keg and what I've been doing to force carbonate. So you force carbonate in two ways. You usually use 10 to 12 psi depending. There's a calculator online that I normally use to determine how much CO2 by volume I want in my beer. And it's all dependent on the style of beer that I'm shooting for. Oh, we also have a dog friend today. It's Poppy Puppy's friend. Anyways, so the other way is if you want to get it done. Let's say you brew a beer and you're like, crap, I got a party that's coming up and I need it done today. There's a way to do it. So I'm going to show you guys. Okay, real quick. I'm not going to go into the deep, dark weeds with this yet because we're going to make that another video for another time. But let me just show you what I'm doing. Okay, so for example, I've got my keg right here. This is the smoky lager that I made. And by the way, it's fantastic. It's one of my best beers. It was a total freaking home run, and I'm super happy about it. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and put in about 20 to 30 psi of CO2 in here. And what you can do, and what I've seen people do, is you could sit there and you can roll it a bunch. But I thought of a new way. And so for those of you who do homebrew, or think about homebrewing, or whatever, and you use your own keg, or you end up kegging, this is what I recommend you do, because you get to do beer workouts, okay? So this is what I was doing yesterday. I was just doing a bunch of lifts, which right now, I know it doesn't look that heavy, but it's about like 45 pounds maybe, which isn't that much, but when you have fluid sloshing around, it makes it a little bit crazier. So anyways, that's what I was doing yesterday to force carbonate my beer. Reason being I was trying to carbonate it fast was more because I'm wanting to share this beer with captain I'm going to be flying with this week, and so I needed it to be carbonated so I could stick it in a bottle and share it. So anyways, that's what I was doing. So, but who would have thought that you can make a workout with beer? So anyways, there's that. Dano, welcome. It's good to see you. Welcome back. No hat. I know. It turns out I actually have hair. Right. Don't drink and fly for sure. Man, it's so great to have you all here. Thank you so much for jumping on. So yeah, I think I've done enough talking. Let's get right into this because I'm excited about this beer build, honestly. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna call it New Year's Fire. Okay. This is going to be a double stream where we are going to be brewing our first beer of the year, celebrating the new year, and just where we're going to be going in the future for the Speakeasy Brewer. But we're also going to make it a affiliate celebration stream as well. So we're going to be doing multiple things all at once, just because I haven't done that yet, and I want to make sure we do that. So I will tell you guys what we're going to be doing with all that. Let's say, yeah, right. Because of the stress. Yeah, I can imagine. We'll see what happens. Anyways, cool. So I'm going to do this. Okay, here we go. Let's see how this works out. I like the new thing. Here we go. Cool. So I'm going to jump back and forth to check on chat. Make sure you guys, if you have any questions or anything, now's a good time to ask. And I will jump back and forth between what I'm doing here, what you guys are watching, and then I'm going to jump back to see if you have any questions. So what I really want to do for this year, I'm calling it New Year's Fire. I really want to make a spicy beer to really get things going well. And I got inspired because I made a spicy beer for a friend earlier this year, and we called it Fire Vixen, and it turned out amazingly. And it was one of those beers where I'm like, man, you know what? When I brew this again, I need to do it in the wintertime. So when better to do it except for the new year? So we'll have it done. We'll do it next week, and then we'll probably end up bottling it or kegging it hopefully by the end of January, which means we'll have all of February to enjoy it. March if it's still around, that kind of thing. But this beer that I made last time, and I'm going to be shooting for the same thing this time around, or similar, is if you guys have had whiskey before, it's the same sort of heating up element. I had 10 habaneros that I put in there, and what I did was I quartered the habaneros, and I roasted them, and then I stuck them in the fermenter and let them sit for about 4 full days, and then I kegged it, bottled it at that point. And man, it turned out so good. The heat was perfect. Like when you drink it, you could taste a little bit of the habanero, and then it would slowly warm up. And it was like the full warm up, like the whiskey feel, where it just warms you up from the inside out. That's what I'm shooting for this time around. So I figured that's a good one to start with. So before I start building this thing, I'm going to come back and make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, hydrate. Oh, I should probably go get some water. I don't have anything. Actually, all my stuff's over there. And I don't know, Some Goner, since you came up with some of the commands recently, which I appreciate. Big shout out to Some Goner. He helped me figure out some stuff with Nightbot, so thank you so much for that. So let me go get some of this. I'm going to go drink some water, because you're right, I do need to drink water. But if there's a way, we should have something. I know there's hydrate, but one thing we can do, if there's a way, Some Goner, you let me know if there's a way, where it's like hydrate, or it's like drink a beer kind of thing. So one would be hydrate, one would be get a drink of beer. Obviously, it's 11 o'clock in the morning for me, so I might take a sip of one of the things I've got in the back, but yeah, or that too, right? All right, I'll be right back. I think what we'll have to do, beer drate, yes. Yeah, if somebody turns in a hydrate, you'll have to differentiate between a hydrate or a beer drate. Oh, okay. Ooh, okay. Well, all in favor for what Swinehunter recommends, say aye, and I'll make it put it on the list, and we'll make it happen. I can think of a handful of ones that. Okay, there's 1, 2. Okay, you guys. Okay. Okay. Well, let me write that down then. That's going on the list. All right. 2,000 points for shot of least favorite liquor. I can't tell you how excited I am with that. Yeah, if you guys have any other ideas for points and how to turn them in, or like not how to turn them in, but what to turn them in for, I'm all ears. Stick it in the Discord too. I'm open for that because I have a few things there, obviously. So, but the more ideas I have, the better. I really want it to just be fun for y'all. Okay, sounds good. I love it. All right, cool. You guys are amazing. You guys make things so much fun. All right, here we go. Let's get to the build, okay? So, New Year's Fire. So we're going to shoot for, I kind of want to do a red ale, a spicy red ale. It's going to be a little bit similar to what I had already done before with my friend's beer, just because I really like how it turned out. So I might change a few things here and there to, just to make something good. So let's start with grains, shall we? So with that, grains. Okay, so when you're building a beer, just real quick, I need to get into this in case there's anybody here that's new to the channel. So when you're building a beer, I think I would recommend the most important thing is get an idea of and a vision of what you want your beer to be like. Like, imagine what you're wanting to experience when you drink the beer, or what you want somebody else to experience it. You know, for me, like with a fire beer that's New Year, like the New Year's Fire, what I'm thinking of is I want something it's warming, obviously, because of the heat from it. So I want it to be warming. I want it to be comfortable, but I want it to taste. I kind of feel like it needs to have a little bit more sweetness, honestly. Just because I equate winter to like sweets, whether that's the case or not. But I don't want it to be too sweet, because when I put the habanero in, the habanero will actually have a little bit of sweetness, you know, some natural sugars, some natural sweetness that's going to be added to the beer. So I kind of want to find that balance where it's not like, I don't want it to be overwhelmingly tasting too much of habanero. I want there to be that base beer. But I also don't want it to be overwhelmingly sweet, because I want it to be something that's pleasant. You know, because sometimes you can get those beers that are super caramely. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. I'm not one for like super sweet, syrupy beers. So I don't want it to be so sweet that it's syrupy. I want it to be sweet enough that it's pleasant, right? So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. So yeah, so kind of get in a picture when you're creating a beer of like the experience that you want to create for yourself and for others. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start creating your recipe, starting off with what we call a base malt. Now, base malt is where you're going to get most of your sugar content that's going to equate to higher alcohol. So the more sugar, the more alcohol. Good equation there. And it's not going to provide so much of color. It's going to probably give you your kind of grainy, biscuity flavor that you're shooting for, and it's going to provide just like a very light yellow, depending on the grain that you use, maybe a darker yellow. So usually for your base malts, what you're going to shoot for is either a pale malt, or you're going to be shooting for a Pilsner malt. You can also use other grains, like I wouldn't use wheat as a base, but you could. Trying to think of another good grain that you could use for, there's one, why can't I think of it right now? There's like a special grain, it's a Munich malt, that's what it is. So there's like a Munich malt which you can use as a base malt for like German beers, like German lagers, or like a Kolsch or something along that line. So that's what you're shooting for, and that needs to be at least like 80% of your beer. It could be all the way up to 100%. Like if you're doing a Pilsner, you can use 1 grain and just use Pilsner malt. And you can use that as 100% of your grain bill. So your grain bill is all of the grains that you're going to be putting in your beer. So it just depends on the beer you're creating, right? So for this one, I want it to probably be around, I'm going to shoot for about like 7% alcohol is what I'm thinking of. And I want it to be a red ale. I just feel like fire and red, and it's just kind of an exciting color for me to start the new year. So I'm thinking it might be a red ale, and it's going to be, a fire red ale. I think that's what it's going to end up being, just as I'm thinking about it. All right, coming back to make sure. Okay, what about the color? What about the color? Oh, good question. Okay, I see what you're saying. So I talked about the base malt real quickly for the grain bill, and then when it comes to creating the rest of the grain bill, when you're shooting for certain flavors or complexities or even color, like some Gunnar was pointing out, you're going to bring that in with other grains. So with this one, since we are going to be shooting for kind of like a red color, there are some grains like Cara Red, or you could use even certain levels of crystal malt, higher lava bond. So I'll explain lava bond real quickly. So sometimes when you're buying grain, you're going to see the name. It'll say crystal malt, okay? And there's several types of lava bond for crystal malt. Now, lava bond is all it is a measurement of the amount of color or that you're going to get from the grain. So if you're finding a crystal malt that is, let's say, 10 lava bond, that 10 lava bond will give you a very light color, yellow, maybe golden in color. And as you get to the higher lava bond, so let's say 30 or 40, you're going to start getting to more of that orange, amber, even brown in color. You start getting a little bit higher. That's when you're going to get like the medium to dark brown, all the way up to, your stout color, really dark black. They have like black patent or black patent malt, which is, I believe it's a really dark lava bond crystal malt, like 350 lava bond. And the darker the grain gets, the less sugars you're going to get from that grain, but the more flavor you're going to get from that grain. So like a darker lava bond beer, like the 50, 60, I would say between 40 and 60, you're going to start getting more of like a caramely sweet kind of color, maybe toffee. And then as you get a little bit darker, you might start to get hints and notes of chocolate or coffee, that kind of thing. And I'm just using crystal malt as an example. There's so many other ones, like black patent malt. That's going to be one of the darkest colored grains that you can get, and that's going to be very heavy on. There's going to be a little bit of smokiness to it. There's going to be some coffee and chocolate to that as well. You could also get like pale chocolate malt. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. And honestly, building your beer it can be completely. It can be super complex or it can be super easy, just depending on what you're doing. There are some breweries who will only choose 1 to 3 grains per beer, no matter what they do, for simplicity's sake. But sometimes you just want to have a more complex beer to give your beer more mouthfeel, smoothness, a creaminess, or you might want to add a little bit of more sugar content. So you might use corn, for example, to add a whole bunch of simple sugars that will eventually equate to higher alcohol, and that's without adding too much flavor. There's so many things you can do. So anyways, I hope that answers your question. So I'm going to appreciate you asking that. All right, cool. So going back to this, we're looking at our grain bill now. So okay, so we're talking with our base malt. So for base malt, what I really want to do is I'm going to start off with a pale malt. And you know what? I really like what the Maris Otter provides for base malt in terms of flavor as well as sugar content and color. So we're going to just type that in. Maris Otter. Gotta find the right one. Here we go. United Kingdom, right down here. A couple things that I want to point out here. So I told you about lava bond. So when you see a color or grain with 20 lava bond plus, lava bond is a form of coloring. Another way that grains will show coloring is through the SRM. So it'll say SRM. So on my screen right now, you see me highlighting Maris Otter Pale Malt. Okay, it's a grain from United Kingdom, and it says 3 SRM. So that's going to be very, very light in color. So very, very light yellow. Okay, and then to the right, you're going to see a potential, and it says SG. So basically, starting gravity. Okay, so 1.038. So basically, that's telling us the potential sugar, the potential alcohol that this grain can create for us. So we're going to choose Maris Otter, and I'm going to add, let's see, I want it to be about 7% alcohol. So let's start off with 10 pounds, shall we? Okay, so off to the right side, you're going to see our little pint glass. And this is the program that I'm using today is called Beersmith. It's Beersmith 3, and it is a fantastic program. You can design your beer. You could also do your water profile. When it comes to brew day, you have a timer that's all set up. I'll show you real quick. So like right here is the timer, and you could see up here, the top timer is your mash timer. So the amount of time that you're going to be steeping your grains. During that time, you're getting all the starches converting to sugars, and you're getting all that color and sugary wort extracted from the grain. And then that is what ends up becoming the beer, okay? Because sugar feeds the yeast, and the yeast eat it and poop out CO2 and alcohol. Yeast, it's amazing. And then down here we have that boil calculator. So that's going to help us when we start adding hops. You'll be able to see down here, it'll say, okay, it's time to add your hops. It's time to add your Werflock tablet, that kind of thing. And then we've got some session notes. I haven't done a whole lot with this page, but this is more like, you're taking your pH of the runnings from the beer, and I haven't gotten that crazy yet, and that's going to help you figure out your mash efficiency. You're also going to be able to figure out what your gravity is pre-boil, and then what it's going to look like when you put it into the fermenter. So it's a lot more information here. I'm still so new. I haven't quite gotten into the weeds with all this. And then one other thing was the water. I wanted to point out the water. So I can sit here and I can choose water profile that I want for my beer. And water profile, usually I'll start off with like reverse osmosis water, and then I'm going to add all of the minerals and chemicals that I want to the water. So calcium chloride, sulfate, sodium, bicarbonate, magnesium, all those things. And each of those minerals will kind of amplify different parts of that beer. They kind of all play. I believe magnesium's more for the health of the yeast, whereas like you've got potassium and sodium and calcium. They're going to be amping up the hop bitterness or the hop flavor. Some of them are going to really allow you to have more complexity. You're going to be able to taste the complexity in the beer a little bit better. So it just depends. So anyways, that's what I'm using today is Beersmith. So we'll just keep it simple. But over to the right side, you'll see the color of the beer. If we just use Maris Otter, that's the color we're going to get. Down below, I've selected Irish Red Ale, which is a style that I'm shooting for, and then I'll show you what again, we're using it as a guideline. We're not actually using it as like it's going to be an Irish Red Ale. We're gonna use it as a guideline and just explore from there. Down below, you have these scales. You have the estimated gravity, and then below that you have bitterness, or IBUs, which stands for International Bitterness Units. And then you have color. So right now we're at 4.6 SRM, so it's pretty light in color. And then you have your estimated alcohol by volume. So we got 5.4% just from that 10 pounds of Maris Otter. So pretty impressive. So yeah. Anyways, so I'm going to come back real fast and check if there's any questions. Sweet. No questions. Right on. Okay. Let's get on with it. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to add some color to this, okay? So I need to add, I think I'm going to do Cara Red, because that I've used a Cara Red in several beers. I made an Irish coffee red ale, which I'm gonna have to remake. I made that several years ago, so I need to make that again so I can show you guys how to make that because it turned out amazing. If you've ever had an Irish coffee before, it literally tasted like a cold Irish coffee. Like it turned out very well, so I was really proud of that one. But I've used a lot of Cara Red in that. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do Cara Red for the next grain, and that should give us our red that we're looking for. So go back into our fermentables, and we're gonna type in Cara Red, and we are gonna go with the Weyermann Cara Red from Germany. You'll notice 24 SRM, so the color is a little bit darker. So you can see when I hover over it, it says medium crystal malt, adds a body and reddish color. So for red ales and lagers, Scottish ales, full body and aroma, deep red color. That's exactly what I want to do. So we're gonna add that, and I'm gonna shoot for, let's do, not 20 pounds. Heck no, that would be way too intense. Let's just do 2 pounds and see what that gives us. Okay, so that's kind of good in terms of the color. It's much darker. It's more of like a brass color. I don't want it to be brass. Let me see if I add 3 pounds, what it does. All right, so now we're getting to that nice red color that I'm wanting. I'm gonna find another grain that's gonna kind of give me a little bit of a red hue, and it's gonna add a little bit of complexity. Let's see if Cara. I'm just gonna type in Cara and see if we can find different ones. There's Cara Malt. Let's see. That's too dark. So I don't know. Toffee, caramel? Not quite sure. What do you guys think? Do you think I need to make it a little bit more sweet? Because right now, what we have, so we've got Maris Otter. So this one is just for base malt, right? That's all it is, premium base malt. It's going to give it kind of like a bready, grainy, biscuity flavor as a base. And then we're adding the Cara Red, which is going to be adding body and the reddish color, but also is going to add a little bit of aroma to it as well, which is perfect. So I'm going to come back to the chat real fast. Sounds delicious. Okay, right on. All right, I like that. Okay, so we'll just stick with that for now. I'm going to see what else I can do. Sometimes to get a little bit darker color, you can add some darker grains to it. But when you add darker grains, especially with a beer like this, you don't want to add a whole lot. Even for a stout, like when you're creating a stout, you don't want to add a whole lot of grain, especially with the darker grain, because the darker grain, you don't need that much to actually give you the color that you're shooting for. If you put too much of a darker grain in your beer, we call those specialty malts, you're going to oversaturate your beer with really, really intense flavor. And it could get to the point where if let's say you use black patent for your stout or your porter, that can eventually, if you have too much of that, will start to taste like a flippin' ashtray. So you need a small amount of it. And the small amount is more for the coloring, and you want just the finest hint of the potential flavor that might bring to your beer. So you don't want to do too much. Like the base malt is where you really want to put all of your eggs in a basket pretty much, and then the rest of it you're going to break it down. The specialty malts are going to be adding the complexity, the flavor, the mouthfeel, as well as coloring, and it's going to be less on the sugar, and they're going to be less on the heavy hitter side. So you want it to be pretty low. And in fact, if you're going to be using a specialty malt like black patent, you want it to be 5% of the grain bill. Okay, so let's see what they have for crystal malt. Crystal malt is a crystal malt. Okay, so we have a lot of things here, right? So crystal malt, we don't want wheat. Although wheat is nice sometimes if you're looking for like head retention. And even like right here, this one, the Cara Crystal Wheat Malt, which is a U.S. company called Breeze. It says sweet, smooth, malty, bready, subtle caramel, dark toast, exceptionally clean. That sounds really freaking amazing, honestly. And it's 55 SRM in color, so that might add a little bit of our red hue to it. Let's see. So we got a whole bunch of crystal malt here that we can use. So you see the 65 Lava Bond. Let's see. It gives a distinctive toffee flavor, which becomes more intense as color is increased. And at the higher end of the color range, burnt or roasted malt flavors may begin to pop out. It's not too bad. 65 SRM. So again, we don't want it to be super dark for this beer. So let's see. I want to try and find... There was one that I used one time. It was like extra dark crystal malt, but I didn't use a whole lot of it. Crystal rye, that might be good. Provides color and spicy flavor. Crystal rye, that's from India. What about this one? Dark caramel hints of rye spiciness and dark fruit flavors of raisins, dates, figs, and plums. That sounds good, but I don't know if that really would go well with what I'm trying to do. Okay. Extra dark, here we go. We're getting into the extra dark stuff. I've done some of this before. So sweet flavors and a little golden hue. So double roasted for a unique flavor profile. This brings notes of raisin, toffee, dark caramels, deep, rich sweetness is present. Oh my goodness. I don't know why I can't find the one that I've used in the past. Oh, here's one. Red. Red crystal. Red crystal imparts a beautiful ruby red hue to beers whilst offering a well-rounded sweet malty flavor. And look at that. 138 SRM. Okay, so maybe I'm going to use a little bit of this, but I don't know if I'm going to use a whole bunch. So let's start off with 0.25. That might be as much as I want. Ooh, that looks like a good color. Okay, we're starting to get there. I don't know if it's quite red yet, but we're getting there. Okay, I'm going to come back, make sure. No questions. Sweet. If you have any questions, I think I took the sounds away because I wasn't sure if people were wanting to use those all the time. So if you want me to keep the alert sounds on there, like to go with the stickers and stuff like that, let me know in the chat and I'll make sure to stick them back. I felt like I was wanting to simplify the stream a little bit and just have it be more about the content. But if there's any specific thing that you guys are hoping to see more of in this stream, during the stream, just let me know and I'll fix that. Okay. All right. So right now we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So we got rye, crystal rye. I like that. That adds a really nice color. I'm gonna change that just a tad, and let's do 0.5. 0.5 pounds. Let's see what that does. Okay, that's a little too much because now we're starting to get to kind of a brown color. Okay, we'll just go back to 0.25. Okay, so I got 3 grains there. I kind of want to go back to that wheat malt right here, 55. I kind of want to add this. Cara Crystal. Whoa! 1 pound. I don't need 1 pound. Let's try 0.25 and see what that gives us. That's still a little bit too brown. Let's even go a little bit lighter. Actually, let's leave this one and then let's go a little bit lighter on this one. We'll just do 0.15. Let's see what that does. I don't know. Maybe it was okay to. Let's do 0.20. I'm going to back this off too. Let's do 2.5. I feel like I'm getting really close to the coloring that I want, but it's like right on that verge of the color that I want. I don't know. Here, I'm gonna go back to 3.0. You guys tell me. What do you think? That looks. It's so hard. It's more like an amber. I'm gonna come back. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that color that I had, this color right here, do you think that would be red enough for a red ale? I kind of feel like it does. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to tell. Let's see if I back this off. 9.0. Nope, that doesn't help. All right, I think that's probably as close as to red we're gonna get. Let's do 0.25 again. I just want to see the color difference. Well, honestly, that might just be good enough. 0.30. We're just like right there. We're so close. Golly. I just don't want it to get brown. Okay, that kind of pushes it over to the brown. Okay, we're going to do 0.30. I think that's as close as we're going to get. Okay, I feel pretty happy with that color, honestly. All right, so let's just check this out. This is our grain bill right now, and we got 4 grains, okay? We got our base malt, which is a Maris Otter. We got our first specialty malt, which is 22% of the grain bill, which I think is a pretty good amount, and that's going to give us more of our red hue. And then we're adding a little bit of complexity with the red rye crystal malt, and which is going to give us that ruby red hue, which is going to also give us a sweet malty flavor, which I think is going to be great. And then we've also got our wheat malt, which is going to be sweet, smooth, malty, bready, subtle, caramel, and a little bit of dark roast, which I think is going to be really, really good. So orange to mahogany hues. I think that's pretty good. I don't know. I like it. Okay, so now that we're done with the grains, now we want to switch to hops. Okay, so for this one, we don't want it to be super hoppy. We want it to just be bitter enough that that it'll be a beer, right? We don't want it to be super bitter, because what we really want to shoot for is we want the complexity of the beer from the grains as well as the sweetness to really pop in this beer, because I think that's going to bring it's just going to be super pleasant, you know? I just think about what I'm wanting to drink in the winter time, and I just want it to be something kind of toasty and delicious and comfortable. So I think we're just going to stick with a majority of what we want in the beer to be experienced from the grains and the habanero, and less so on the hop. So we're going to find something that a hop that's got a really low alpha acid. Now, real quick, for those of you who might be new to the channel, alpha acid for a hop is like the lower the alpha acid, the lower the bitterness that you're going to have in a beer. The higher the alpha acid, the more bitter it's going to be. Okay, so I'm going to show you here. We got a list of some hops here. Just looking at the top, you'll see, for example, this Ella hop, which is 14.80% or 16.5. So these are very high alpha acids, okay? Alpha acids are nice because the higher the alpha acid, also it acts as kind of like an antiviral or antibacterial. So it's actually going to be more protective for your beer to prevent it from having any weird off flavors from like yeast or like wild yeast or even bacteria. So that's a benefit of it. The problem is it's just super, super bitter. So if you're going to be using it, a high alpha acid, a hop, and like let's say a beer like this where I want the flavor and the sweetness of the grain to like really pop, I can still use a high alpha acid. I'm just going to use less of that hop. So instead of doing 1 ounce, I might do 0.25 ounces, maybe half an ounce, just to get the bitterness that I'm shooting for without compromising the flavor. But I feel like with this one, I'm going to shoot for, like, I feel like Kent Golding. Kent Golding is usually pretty good. Kent Golding East Kent Golding, yeah, 5%. I kind of want to, let me look at this real quickly, look at the details here. So here's a few things that you want to do when you're checking it out. Obviously, So used for English ale, porter, Scottish and Irish ale, stout, strong ale, ESB, saison, barley wine. So those are things that you can get from it. And then for aroma, you're going to get floral, aromatic, earthy, slightly sweet, and spicy flavor. And honestly, that might be perfect for exactly what we're looking for, especially if we're wanting to kind of create a really good base for both aroma and flavor to bring out some of that spicy flavor. But it's not going to be an overwhelming spicy flavor. So I think that might be pretty good. And so since it's such a low alpha acid, you could probably do a little bit. So I want to put some in for the boil, but I really like the aroma that it produces, the floral, aromatic, earthy, sweet, spicy flavor. Because again, habaneros are also pretty floral in smell. Like if you think about it, like if you think of peppers, there's, floral's kind of sweet, but they're also spicy. So I think I might do 2 of them. 1 ounce will be for bitterness, which we'll put in at the beginning of the boil, which is at 60 minutes. And then the other one we're going to add for aroma, we're going to put it in probably about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, just for aroma. Flavoring, you're going to add, let's see, because flavoring, you're going to add it right around 20 to 15 minutes. And then aromatics, you're going to put it in around 10 to 5. Maybe we should do right in between. That way we get a little bit of the flavor from the hop as well as the aroma of the hop. So maybe, or what we could do, let's do that. Okay, so let me stop talking for a second. I'm going to do 1 ounce of that, and I'm going to duplicate this one because I really like this hop. And we're going to change the boil time. So bittering hops go in at the beginning of the boil, so in this case 60 minutes, and then aromatics and flavoring. So flavoring goes in between 20 to 15 minutes, maybe even 10, and then the aromatics will be anything after 10. So let's do 15. We'll do 1 ounce at 15. Okay. So after I've added the hops, you can see down here. Okay, well, let's look at this already together. Okay, so with all of our grains and our hops, right now we're shooting for an estimated gravity, starting gravity, so the potential sugars that can be translated into alcohol. We're looking at 1.073. I know that doesn't really mean anything in terms of number for you guys, but usually what you're going to start off, it's always 1.0 something, and sometimes what brewers and homebrewers will do is they'll drop off the 1.0 and they'll just say 73 or 58 or whatever. And that's your starting gravity. And then when it comes to finishing gravity, like we can see over here, if you follow my arrow, I'm going to just swirl it around a little bit. You're going to see estimated final gravity right here. It says 1.018, or we'll say 18. Okay, so starting gravity is going to be 73. Finishing gravity or ending gravity will be 18. Okay, those numbers are important because when it comes time for you to bottle or keg your beer, more specifically for bottling, because you don't want to have bottle bombs, but if you're going to bottle it, you want to make sure that you're really dang close to that final gravity, because that's going to tell you whether the beer is done fermenting or not. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. And then bitterness, with the hops that we used and the time that we used them, it's going to be 21.7 IBUs, which is, it's in the green range, right? Again, all of these ranges right here are based on that Irish red ale style. And I don't really care right now what that style is. I'm just using it as kind of a base guideline. And I'll kind of go over some of that stuff too. Looking at our color, it's kind of outside the range of the color SRM, so maybe it's going to be a darker hue, more of like a mahogany color. Obviously, this program can only do so much in terms of the color based on the grains we're using. So I would say for the color that I'm seeing right there, I'm pretty happy with it. So we'll just go with it and see how it turns out. We can always try again later. And then our estimated alcohol, 7.3. Usually with my mash efficiency and the grains that I'm using, I have a tendency to undershoot the alcohol by volume as well as the original gravity by about 10 to 12 points. Okay, so if I'm going to undershoot it, it's probably going to end up being 1.061, maybe 1.058 or something like that. And part of that efficiency can be improved by longer steeping times when you're mashing it, or putting it through the grain mill at least 2 times just to make the crush a little bit finer. And that's going to allow the starches and to convert to sugars a little bit more efficiently. So those are the things we're looking at. So I'm going to stop talking for a second before we finish, come back, make sure I'm not missing any questions. Okay, can you add an adjunct to adjust the color some more? Very good question. Actually, you probably could. Usually, let's see, I'm trying to think of some adjuncts that you could probably add that would be, that would add some color. Because usually, like, adjuncts would be things like spices or alternate sugars. So, like honey, which honey probably would be a good addition. I probably don't know if I don't know if I'd put it here, but if you had like a darker colored honey, like a maroon honey, or even like maple syrup, that might add a little bit of color. But honestly, you'd have to add a lot of that adjunct to add a ton of color to it. You know, for example, like honey. Some people want to add honey to their beers. Let's say they want to make like a honey wheat, for example. Some people will add honey, but honey is simple sugar, so the yeast will actually eat up that sugar really quickly. So if anything, it's going to add more to the alcohol, and you're going to notice less of the sweetness. Now, if it's a specialty honey, like maybe like a lavender honey, or like there's a specific flower that the bees are using for nectar to create the honey, you might get some of those flavors. But I'm just trying to think. I mean, you could probably add things like brown sugar even, and that brown sugar probably would add a little bit of flavor, kind of like, or like molasses. It might add a little bit of color as well as that flavor. But I think a lot of what you want to do is you want to use as much of the grains as possible to kind of get the color that you're looking for, because that's going to have the most amount of impact. But you want to find a good balance of it so you don't lose your balance of flavor. I hope that answers your question. But very, very good question, Rob. I appreciate that one. So, yeah. Okay, so I think overall this is good. Let's see. And here, I just want to show you this as well. So when we're looking at the Irish Red, we're looking at the Beer Judge Certification Guide, Beer Judge Certification Program, BJCP. It's a style guide for the United States, and this is the 2021 style guide. Okay, the big thing that they say here, this is more for competitions, okay? So if you're going to turn a beer in, let's say this is an Irish Red Ale, okay? If I'm going to turn a beer in for this sector, or for this, like for a competition, I want it to be as dang close to the description, profile, ingredients, that sort of thing as I can possibly get to what this style guide says, so that I have a higher score and a higher potential score in that category, okay? The very beginning of the guide tells you that it's just a guideline for competitions and no more. It's a good jumping off point for when you're creating your beers. So if you're new to homebrewing and you're like, I want to make a red ale, what does a red ale entail? Then you can look this up and say, okay, type in red ale, and boom, it'll pull up a few ideas of like what you can expect, okay? So we know for one thing it's an ale, hence the name Irish Red Ale. And it's going to give you a handful of standards for it. Okay, so you're looking at original gravity. It says the min is 1.036, max is 1.046. Obviously, we went way higher with 1.07. Okay, that is what it is. So again, it's just standards. Bitterness is between 18 and 28, so we're within the standards there. And you're looking for carbonation between 2.40 and 2.8 volumes of CO2 in your beer, okay? A lot of that's going to be based on the temperature of your beer, and if you can go online and find like a carbonation calculator, I think Beersmith has one as well. You can type in all the information, put in all the data points, and it's going to tell you, put your beer in, once you have it at a specific temperature, add this much PSI of CO2 for X amount of days, and that should be good enough, okay? You're looking at the alcohol. Obviously, ours is going to be a little bit higher. And then the coloring, ours is going to be a little bit higher. But this is all going to tell you the description of everything too, right? So for a description of a red ale, it's easy drinking pint, often with subtle flavors, slightly malty in balance, sometimes with an initial soft toffee or caramel sweetness, a slightly grainy, biscuity palate. Thank you. Brubella's getting after the dogs. Brubella. She's getting after him. Anyways, okay. I'm sorry. I'm kind of getting boring here. Anyways, so this is what we're looking at, right? Okay. Some ingredients: roasted barley, black malt for the reddish color, and dry roasted finish. Pale base malt. Anyways, so that's what we can look at. Okay, cool. Boopity boppity. All right, so the last thing that we need here is our yeast. Okay, yeast is important, obviously, because without the yeast, you're not going to have any alcohol. I'm always a go-to. My go-to people are Imperial yeast. I love Imperial yeast. They're really, really good. And honestly, you know what? I'm kind of nervous about going online, but I could go online and pop open some stuff. So let me try it, okay? If I lose you guys, here I'm gonna go back to this live screen, and that way I don't have too much going on. There's Brubella. She's trying to keep the dogs in order, so I don't get too noisy in the background. So let's look at this real fast. Okay, we're gonna try it. Hopefully it doesn't go out. Did it go out? No, it didn't go out. I can't believe it didn't go out. Okay, I'm going to show you guys this. Imperial yeast. We're going to go imperialyeast.com. Great. They have great stuff. Let's see. Resources. Nope. I don't want that. Products. That's what I want. We're going to shoot for homebrew strains, explore yeast strains. And we're going to just go in here. And so here's what you can do. We're at homebrewing, beer style. Let's look up... it's probably gonna Irish ale's probably gonna start there, and you could just go from here, and it's gonna totally organize everything in terms of the yeast that you can use for it. So we're looking at English Irish ale. So here's our options. We got house ale, which is going to be an English ale strain, allowing both. Oh, I'm not even showing you guys. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm being a nerd. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, here's Imperial yeast. Okay. So what I did was I put in English Irish ale just to organize the strains to give me only the strains that are going to be perfect for this, okay? So we have House Ale, A01, and it's an extremely versatile English ale strain, allowing both malt and hops to shine. And then you got Pub, which is highly flocculent ale strain, well suited for a variety of beers. So that's all pretty good. So flocculent, I know it sounds like flatulence kind of, but flocculent basically means the ability for the yeast, once it's done fermenting the beer, to drop out. So all that nasty stuff, that krausen at the top of your beer when it's fermenting, all of that stuff will drop out to the bottom, and it'll leave a very, very clear beer for you, which is good. I like clear beers because I accidentally made a hazy IPA basically recently when I was trying to be a pineapple blonde, but it's more like a hazy IPA. Not too bad. Happy accident, I guess you can say. And then there's Darkness, which this is more for dark beers. We're not making a dark beer. And then Tartan, Scottish brewers, yeast strain, well suited for more malt forward beers. Let's take a look at that one. That might be a good one. Okay, so one thing, when we get these pouches, you'll see right here it says pitch right pouch. So basically you could sit there, you can warm it up, shake it up, rip open the pouch, dump it in, boopity boppity, magic happens, you've got beer. That works great. A lot of what I like to recommend people to do, and this is what I do for myself, is I will make a yeast starter. And we're going to do a yeast starter next week. So if you're new to the channel and you've always wanted to see what a yeast starter looks like or how to do it, we're going to do it real quick. And it won't be a very long stream. It'll probably be 45 minutes. I have a tendency to talk, so maybe guesstimate an hour. And if you have any questions, I'll answer your questions as well. But the reason I do a yeast starter is I'm taking this pouch, which is going to have 200 billion yeast cells in it. I'm going to make a mini beer on my stove, and I'm going to use that as food for the yeast. I'm going to put that yeast packet in, and I'm going to let it sit for 24 hours, give or take, before I dump it into my fermenter after brew day, which is usually the next day. So I do it 24 hours in advance to me actually pitching the yeast. And what that's going to do, that amount of time, it's actually going to cause your yeast to reproduce and multiply. And instead of having 200 billion yeast cells, you're going to have 400 billion yeast cells. The more yeast you have when you pitch it, the faster the fermentation is going to start, the more efficient the fermentation is going to be. And if it's a more efficient fermentation, it means it's going to happen in a shorter amount of time. And then what I always recommend people, especially with homebrewers, and because this is the rule of thumb, is let your beer sit for at least 3 weeks. Honestly, when I did this blonde ale, I let it sit for 7 days, did the fermentation, and then I kegged it immediately. I kegged it because I thought, well, it's done fermenting, it can continue to condition and mature in the keg, which it's done just fine, and it's done really well. So you can do that, or you could just let it sit in your fermenter for about 3 weeks, which is a good rule of thumb because we call it a diacetyl rest. So it's going to go in and kind of clean up and make the beer a little bit cleaner in flavor. So any off flavors that have been created by the yeast during the fermentation process, the yeast will actually go in and kind of clean things up a little bit. So it'll be a cleaner, finer flavor. Anyways, so that was a slight tangent. Okay. This is more for IPAs, or it says good for IPAs. Malty, robust, Scottish. Well, if you want to be Scottish in your beer, you might as well use the tartan. And let's go to the house. The house is a good one. I've used the house many times, and it works really, really good. Okay, house is a clean yeast and allows malt and hops to shine. The strain is extremely versatile and flocculent enough to drop out of the beer quickly. Best strain choice for any and all English-inspired recipes, however, does extremely well in hopped-up IPA or American styles too. House is clean at cold temperatures with increased esters at fermentation temperatures, or as fermentation temperatures rise. So esters are more like fruity, floral kind of flavors that you're going to be getting, citrus, that kind of thing, piney. And then, but it says right here, it'll be clean at cold temperatures. So clean is something that you probably want for like a lager or something, but clean is, I like clean beers. Clean beers are great because then it adds a level of crispness, and when it's a clean beer and not full of all these other flavors, I mean, man, it can really cause the flavor from the grains to really pop, and it's like, I feel like for this beer, I don't really want it to be super estery or floral or citrusy, because I think that the citrus and the floral will come out from the hops as well as the peppers. That's what I'm thinking. So I might just do that one, honestly. Okay, coming back. Boopity boppity. That's right. That's my saying. Boopity boppity. Can you tell when I'm like really getting into things? I'm not Italian at all, but I use the Italian hands. So when I'm really excited. The boopity boppity. We're going to make some magic happen. I love it. So good. You make me laugh, some Gunner. I appreciate it. Anyways, all right, so we're going to do that. We're going to do American yeast, or not American yeast. That was a lie. We're going to do the house ale. Ale1. Okay, so we're going to come back to here. We're going to use house. Okay, right here. House, I think it's good. We want it to be flocculent enough to drop out of the beer quickly. That'll be good. And then we'll let it sit for a diacetyl rest. It's going to be nice and clean. It's going to be good. We're going to shoot for a fermentation temperature. Actually, hold on 1 second. I'm going to come back here real quickly. I forgot to point out this information down here, okay? Let me see real fast. Okay, yeah, I'm still doing screen share. Okay, down here. There are so many things in beer brewing that are incredibly important, okay? Number 1, cleanliness and sanitation. You must have very clean vessels that are going to touch your beer. because if they're not clean, you're going to ruin your beer. And all of the time and energy and effort that you put into creating an amazing beer to save money on beer is going to be ruined. Ask me how I know, and I might shed a few tears, okay? The next thing, yeast. Yeast is so important, okay? What about the yeast is important? I'm going to show you right here. It says temperature, 62 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? Ask me how I know this. When you use a yeast to ferment your beer, please, for the love of God, follow the temperature range, okay? The temperature range is absolutely important. For example, if you're going to be brewing a lager beer, okay, you need to use a yeast that's a lager yeast, and those lager yeast need to ferment at a temperature that's low, between 40 and maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty cold. So keep it in a fridge and make sure you control that temperature well. And it needs to be right in that temperature, because if it's not in that temperature, you're going to have issues. If you want to see those issues, go back, and it's on my YouTube channel now because I've transferred all this stuff to YouTube. Go back, and I need you to go find, it's not the one where it says beer fail like follow-up, where I talk about how much it sucks to fail at a beer, but the day when I kegged the Kolsch and Stout, I kegged 2 beers at once, okay? Go and watch that one. You will see my face because the yeast was fermenting at too hot a temperature, okay? So if you want your beer to turn out well, make sure that the yeast you use, make sure you can maintain that temperature. So for this one, 62 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I have a great place where I could put my fermenter to maintain that temperature, and it'll probably fall between like 65 and 70. Perfect. If it gets to 75, 80 plus, you're going to have a bad beer. If it gets below that, it won't be a bad beer. It's just going to take a long time to ferment, okay? And this is an ale yeast, not a lager yeast. There's a difference. Usually ale yeasts will ferment at a higher temperature. Lager yeast ferment at a colder temperature. The difference between the two is a lager yeast ferments from the bottom, so you're going to have bubbles and stuff at the top of your fermenter, but not a lot of kreuzen and like yeast cakes floating around, whereas an ale yeast is a top fermenting beer. It's going to ferment from the top down. Both of them are great, but anyways, there's that, okay? And then you have a flocculation, which is really high, which means that once the yeast is done fermenting, it's going to clear out. It's all going to fall at the bottom of the fermenter. Happy day. You're going to have a nice clean beer. Okay. Haze is medium. One way you can improve your haze is to use a Warflock tablet, which I like to use for all of my beers, except for stouts and hazy IPAs. And then attenuation. Attenuation says 73 to 75%. Attenuation, the best way to explain it is its efficiency. It's the efficiency of the yeast, which means that the yeast will eat 73 to 75% of the sugar in the beer, and it's going to produce alcohol from that amount of sugars, okay? And then alcohol tolerance. This yeast can handle up to 10% alcohol. That's important because do you guys know what alcohol does to your yeast? It actually kills it, okay? So just be cautious with the yeast, okay? So we're going to add that. That's our yeast, okay? Oh, criminy sakes. Okay, we're going to put this on pause for a second because let me switch this, and I'm going to get my battery charger. Don't worry, it won't take long. Okay, I know I've said a lot of information, and I think sometimes these beer build streams can be kind of boring. So, do you have any questions? Is there anything that you guys have on the top of your mind that you're like, hey Austin, I've always wondered this? Feel free to ask. And then I'm going to kind of wrap this bad boy up. And we're going to talk about the celebration stream coming up because I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be super sweet. So, all right. I don't see any questions, so let's get back to this. Okay. I'm going to close this one. I'll close it out later. Okay, here we go. So we got our yeast. All right, and that's going to... That yeast right there, you'll notice that our estimated alcohol by volume went up by 0.1%. Nothing too crazy. Okay. So that's it right there. We have our beer. This is the makings of our beer. Okay, if I really wanted to do, what I'm going to do this beer is I'm not going to do any water chemistry with this beer. Because honestly, we have artesian well here in town, which is basically the groundwater from the aquifer here in Salt Lake City. And the water works really, really well for most of the ales that I use. So I'm going to just use that. It's super easy. I don't have to do any measurements or anything like that. And it should be good. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to switch this out. I just realized I have a whole bunch of hops from my parents' house. Okay, hold on. Hold the phone. I know it's Cascade hops. But the great thing about it is it's Cascade hops. It's 5.50. We're going to do that. We're going to switch this up. There we go. I'm going to get rid of the East Kent Golding. Sorry, I just realized that I have 20 ounces of hops for free. We're going to duplicate this. We're going to do 1 hour. And we're going to do 15 minutes. Okay? Okay. And here we go. Let me check the details real fast. Okay. Strong, spicy, floral, grapefruit character. Okay, I don't really want the grapefruit character, but this is aroma. Okay? Aroma only. But strong, spicy, and floral. I can handle that. It's going to be real good. I think it's going to be great. So we're going to do that. The bitterness is a little bit lower, actually. Just by a small bit. Okay. I just thought of that. We're going to change that out. So we're going to use my own hops, which is nice because we get to save a little bit of money on that. And I need to use those hops anyways. Honestly, it's going to be really good. I used my hops in the stout that I won an award for. So they're really good. So I'm going to save this. Boom. We're calling it New Year's Fire. Okay. Oh, one last thing. Add miscellaneous. Let's see if they have habaneros. Habanero. Nero? Maybe they don't have it in here. Let's see if they've got pepper. Nope. Okay. They don't have it in here. That's fine. I'm just going to add habaneros in here on my own. But that'll be at the end of the fermentation. So probably the week before I keg it. So 4 days before I keg it or bottle it, I'm going to add the habaneros. And I'll do all the stuff for that. So I'll make sure to stream that so I can show you guys what to do if you want to ever make a spicy beer yourself. Okay? So that kind of concludes our beer recipe build, honestly. Yeah. Anyways, that's our beer. So New Year's Fire. That's going to be exciting. So I'm also excited, and I'm going to share this with you because I wrote all these things down because I'm excited about this. We talked a lot about our celebration stream that's coming up. And so I wrote down a few ideas that y'all have recommended. So since I haven't really spent much time doing like a New Year's stream or like a Christmas stream, we're going to have Christmas lights up. We're going to brew New Year's Fire, so that's going to be good. We're going to have some beer tastings of both the smoky ale, the pineapple beer. Hopefully we could get a couple people. Swine Hunter hopefully will be one of them. But we'll have a few others kind of come and taste test the beer. We're going to have cake. Because you got to have cake when you're celebrating something, right? I don't know. That was Tion's idea. And pizza. Cake and pizza. And then what we'll do is we're also going to be releasing some new emojis and subscriber badges. So I'm going to have Rubella make some. So obviously we have Hop Dog and the Hoppy Puppy, which I put out today. And you guys have already used some of them. But I want to make sure that I have more available for you if you wanted to subscribe and get some access to some fun emojis for Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. If that's your thing, get all the emojis you want. And then we're going to also have some subscriber badges, so it's not just some, tradition or standard Twitch badges. We want it to be somewhat unique and fun for what we're going to be doing. Let's see. Also, if you are a lucky one and you aren't working at the time of our stream, that would be a great time for you to crack open a beer. So make sure you have some beers for that stream. Again, we're doing it on the 5th of January. It's going to be 10:30 Mountain Time. So for all my friends over on either on the East Coast, well, I guess it'll still be work day for y'all, but for those of you guys who are at least over in Europe, it's going to be beer 30 for you guys. So make sure to crack open a beer. Yoshi, I believe it's going to be super early in the morning for you. So if you feel like having a beer at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, have at it, my friend. But share your beers, make sure you have some fun. Make sure you jump on. If you think somebody's going to enjoy this stream and talking about beer, and eventually what we're going to get into is we're going to start adding mixology into the stream and maybe even get into some wines. And we're going to start really going deep with the content. And I want to make sure that not only are we having fun and creating and building something, but we're also going to be going in depth with just the knowledge behind everything. Try some new stuff. So that'll be fun. So anyways, that's what to expect for the celebration stream. It's going to be celebrating the new year for the Speakeasy Brewer. It's going to be celebrating you guys. And it's also going to be celebrating just the fact that we got to affiliate. So we couldn't be where we're at today without you all. You guys are amazing. So thank you so much for your support and your excitement and just your involvement. It makes it a lot of fun. So add all of your beer ideas. Like if you have ideas for beer or anything along that line, or what you want to see as somebody who watches a stream, make sure you add it in the Discord. So go sign up on the Discord, jump on in there. We have a fun community in there, great people in there. We share our beers, we share some ideas, just talk about life in general. So go join that Discord server. And if there's something in particular that you want to see in the stream or that you think would add value to the stream, so that it's something that is something I just want to do whatever you guys want to see, because I want you to feel like this is also a stream that's for you and with you, because without you, this stream wouldn't exist. Honestly, I remember when I first started this channel, I was like, all right, I'll do this for a little bit and we'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll just see what happens. And I was pretty close to just being done with it when some goner jumped on and was like, hey, beer, cool. And then he and I just became friends and he helped me improve this stream. So I was just like, well, I've got one friend that's always jumping on, so this is worth it to continue doing it. And all y'all started jumping on, and now I jump on here because you guys are here. So thanks for all you have done to help me get to this point. So you guys are amazing. All right, well, that's all I have. You guys have an amazing week/weekend. I guess it's going to be weekend soon. So yeah, that's all I have for y'all. So if you have any questions about the beer brewing process, or I should say the recipe build process today, and you're part of the Discord, get on there and ask some questions. I'll be happy to answer them for you. If you like what you see here, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already done it, or just follow the channel. And if you think other people would enjoy this channel, and encourage them to come follow as well. And if you're not a Twitch person, jump on via YouTube. All this stuff is getting streamed to YouTube now for the new year, so that's exciting. And in fact, I should probably go see, I don't even know if I can see here if like YouTube is, if there's chats. If you're on YouTube and I haven't answered any of your chats, I apologize. I'm horrible at technology, as everybody on this channel can attest to, but I'm working on it. So if I didn't answer any of your questions on YouTube, I apologize. Do join with the Discord channel, and if you have those questions that I didn't answer, ask away on there, and I will do my best to help out. All right, y'all. You guys are amazing. Have a great one. Some Ghana, thanks for jumping on. Rob with 2Bs, Swine Hunter, Yoshi Kitchi, who else was on here? Dano, you're on here. I can't forget to say hi to you. All y'all who are on here. Elfaldax, thanks for jumping on. You guys are all amazing. Stay Frosty. You guys are awesome. I don't know what you just said, Swine Hunter. Siempre un placer. Anyways, okay, you guys are awesome. Hey, this weekend, be adventurous, stay thirsty, speak easy. I will see you all next week for some